My name is Richard Mireles, and I want to welcome you to the Prison Post. This is your podcast for conversations surrounding the need to reform prisons from the perspective of formerly incarcerated people, community members, and leaders in the restorative justice movement. The Prison Post will feature an episode every Wednesday with people who are in the fight to restore lives and heal communities. Welcome back, everybody, to the Prison Post. My name is Richard Mireles. This is my co-host, the always handsome Jason Bryant.
Always handsome. Only when I wake up and shave.
We got another handsome guest with us today. His name is Johnny Howe, the man, the myth, the legend himself, in the house with us. Johnny's story was featured in our book, Men Built for Others. You can find that on Amazon. I'll throw in a shameless plug at the beginning of the show. But yeah, Men Built for Others is a book that Crop organization put together, and it wouldn't be what it is today without stories like Johnny's. It's one of the most heartfelt, moving, tear-jerking stories that anybody's ever read. Almost every time that I get feedback on Men Built for Others, they say, "That Johnny, who's Johnny?" You know, I want to. That's a powerful story. So we have the honor and the privilege of tapping in with Johnny today and hearing his story. It's great to be with you, Johnny. He's our friend. He's our brother. And not only that, but he's somebody that, you know, when I'm having a tough day and going through it, I know that I can call Johnny and talk to him. He's like a mentor and big brother to me. And so we interchange roles a lot there, but Johnny's a mover and shaker. He's a married man. He's doing a lot of amazing things. So I just can't wait to unpack the story today. Welcome to the Prison Post, Johnny.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Jason, what do you got to say about Johnny over here before we start?
Now, Johnny Howe.
Don't start sweating on us, brother.
Hold on now. Now we.
Me or Jay?
Both of us, because when we first met, it wasn't under the most responsible circumstances. When I first met Johnny, he was still, and I was still, both kind of into our criminality, and he was involved in some of the more nefarious things at the prison, and I was too. And I was looking for a cell phone at the time.
Okay.
And they said, "You got to talk to Tweety." So Tweety was the guy back then.
He's dead. That guy tried to kill me.
Okay.
You mean we didn't all start out transformed?
No, we didn't. We didn't all start out transformed. Each of us has a story, a journey of transformation. But I'll say this: when Johnny found his transformation, he stepped up in a way that was inspiring and just really called people to a new level of what was possible for them.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into it a little bit further when we talk about the working relationship that Johnny and I developed, not only in our AOD certification program, but also with mentorship. So I'm looking forward to getting that conversation and kind of reliving some of those incredible moments of being of service to the community with Johnny.
Yeah, when I think about the top three most transformed people that I've ever met in my life, I think about you and James Willock. And it's hard for me to think outside of a third right now off the top of my head, but definitely you too. And I don't know if you brought one of those red things that I asked you to bring the other day on Facebook.
Oh, I didn't. He asked me to bring my parole ducket. Yeah, my parole ducket. I didn't bring it. I forgot. It's been kind of a hectic day.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to know, Johnny, is if you'd be willing to share a little bit of your story with listeners and your journey of transformation.
That's right.
Most definitely. So I was born in Hawthorne, California. I was raised by the Department of Corrections. So for me, you know, my mother, she suffered from alcoholism and depression. And I remember her drinking. That was one of her coping skills for the majority of her life. And I was about 5 years old. And one of those mornings, I walked out to use the restroom about 3 a.m. She calls me over and, you know, she's drinking and, you know, listening to oldies. And she says, "You know, the reason I had you was to keep your dad around." So as I grew up, I felt like, man, like I failed at that. And so as I grew up, you know, I had the idea, I created the life sentence if something was wrong with me. So what happened was, as I grew up, I started looking for validation and acceptance. And for the majority of my life, I lived as a coward, so I took the easy way out. I could have went to school, got good grades, but that took too much time. And could have joined sports, but that meant practice. So I joined a gang and I got validation through that. And about 13, you know, she tells me, "Hey, I know you're gangbanging. I know you're selling drugs. Just don't get caught." So at that time, I was like, part of me was like, yes, I get to do whatever I want. But there's a bigger part of me that felt that she finally given up on me. And for me, that, allowed me to continue to get deeper involved in gangs. About 14 years old, and, I shot at somebody. We go back to my neighborhood, and the guy who's kind of running the neighborhood is like, hey, so what happened? He asked the guy who was driving, and he said, hey, he shot him. And that guy picked me up and twirled me around. And I was like, damn, this feels better than getting good grades or any of that. So what happened was I continued to pursue that type of validation. I continued to do things that would give me recognition. And so at the age of 17, I go into a liquor store with a friend of mine, and we kind of stake the place out. And we pay for gas, and we find out there's only one clerk. So what happens is we pay for the gas, we go around the building, and we go back in. And then what happens is we go back in and take 2 cases of beer each. We run outside, I make it to the car, I turn around, and the store clerk had chased us and had tackled the guy that I was with. I picked up a rifle, and I shot, and I murdered a man for $27.90 alcohol. And at that time in my life, the excuse that I used was like, oh, I'm a gang member. And, he would tackle my homeboy, and like I had terrible victim language that just try to justify what I did. And as I got older and did some of the work with, Jay, Rich, and Ted, and Matt, and, some of them guys, I identified that I was a coward. I identified that I made that choice because I was more concerned what the people that I was with thought about me than this man's life. And at the age of 17, I get sentenced to 15 to life, and I go into prison and start at the youth authority. And I start off trying to do well because, I realized that I embarrassed my mom a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a situation where one of my homeboys had ran into the house, and there's some other of my homeboys that are still at our house. And he's like, hey, there's these guys outside. So the guys that were at my house run to the front. He tries to run to the back. And my mom was like, hey, get your ass out there. Like, you're the one that started it. Mm-hmm. And his grandma and his mom told him, well, at least my son's not a murderer. Mm. And for me, I was like, man, what can I do to try to, like, at least make her proud? So one of the things I did was I got involved in education, and I got my GED, my A degree, my BS degree. And shortly after that, my mom passed. And so I was basically living for her.
How old were you when you did all those educational accomplishments?
It was like from 18 to 24.
Okay.
And then when I was about 24, my mom had passed. Mm. And I felt like I had no one to live for. So I got heavily involved with gangs in prison and drugs and, selling cell phones to Jay, stuff like that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that, like, the crime that you committed that resulted in your incarceration, you had that epiphany that, like, this is embarrassing for my family, for my mom. But then when you lost her, it was like there was this temptation to backslide, and you kind of gave yourself over to that temptation.
Definitely.
Johnny, would you, the point I want to back up and unpack this story a little bit more. I think about when you said you walked out in the living room and at 3 a.m, and she says, the only reason I kept you around is to keep your dad around. And how old are you today?
21. No,
48. Yeah, you and
48.
you
June 27th,
me and Jay.
my birthday.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So even to this day, you remember that. Now, It doesn't sound like you're using this the story as an excuse, using the facts of what happened as an excuse to justify some type of behavior like many do. But but you can still hear it. And I think in my mind, I can hear some of the hurtful things that were told to me. You're not going to be good enough. You ain't going to amount to shit. You better, you're not smart enough to go to college. You're not disciplined enough to go to the military. So you better learn how to move a shovel. And I can still hear those words. And maybe Jay has some things that he can still hear.
Sure.
And what do you think? I want to ask 2 questions on that. How did that affect you back then? And then also now that you're free, and how long will you be free? Is it 3 years yet?
Oh, I'm off parole now.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Off parole. So has it been 3 years or 4 years?
Yeah, 3 years. Yes.
3 years.
3 years, 1 month, 6 days, and 3 hours.
So one,
How many
That's what I'm
minutes?
counting. But,
yeah. So one, like, how did that affect you back then when you heard that, and why is that important that you share that story for other parents? I hear that all the time, stuff in stores, Target, Walmart. I could hear it while I'm walking down the aisles. And why is that important that you share that today? Why is it important for our audience and listeners who are family members and loved ones in the incarcerated? And how do you react to it today when you hear that kind of stuff?
okay. So the first part is the way it affected me back then is that, like, it really affected the way I seen myself, the way I felt about myself. It allowed me to create a victim story where I made decisions from. You know, I felt worthless. Like, I felt like I had no purpose. And I think for most people, you know, Richard shared this with me. He said the two most important days in your life is the day you were born and the reason you found out you were born. And I didn't know why I was born for a long time. Like, I didn't know my purpose. Wasn't committed to nothing but criminal and gang lifestyle. And so back then, it just really affected my self-esteem. You know, it you know, encouraged me to sway. Like, I was impressed with, I was concerned with impressing people, and oftentimes the wrong people. You know, so today I think it's important because sometimes there's people who still believe what somebody told them so long ago. There's still people who have bought into that story and carried it around with them and repeat that story to them and still listen to that voice instead of saying, you know, that was one person's opinion. And you know, I think if I ask my mom today, she's you know, it's passed. But I don't think what she meant by that is how I took it. Like, the way I took it isn't how she meant it. I don't believe.
Right.
But I chose to, you know, use it so that I can justify criminal behavior, so I could take the easy way out. And you know, so today, because, you know, a large part because of you guys, like, I have the opportunity to work as an alcohol and drug counselor out here. Within a month of being paroled, I got hired as an alcohol and drug counselor. And you know, we have people that get there and know they have 4 years over their head. And there was a group of guys who just got drunk, you know, 2 weekends ago. And it's like, man, there's people fighting you harder than you're fighting for yourself.
Right.
And when I ask them questions, they're like, you know, do you think you're worth it? And they're like, no, I don't think I'm worth it. Like, I'm good just living a life of mediocrity. Like, I'm cool, like, you know, just getting by.
Sure.
And one thing that you share with me that I still live by, all of you guys, is that are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose? And today I definitely play to win. I don't,
That's right.
you know, I don't want to sit on the bench and play special teams. Like, I don't need to be quarterback, but
you want to be in the game.
Again.
You want to
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
You were great. Just speaking of sports, you know, we've got an event tonight, coaching for life, and we're going to be talking about some sports. And Johnny Howe was known to be the best center on the yard, on the entire yard, the best lineman altogether. Like, he could snap the ball and he could hold the block. And I remember our executive director, Ted Gray, he would say, "We need Johnny Howe for center." But there's something you touched on, Johnny, that I'd like to ask you about. You were talking about how when you lost your mom and the pain was a powerful temptation for you to go back. You know, for myself, I had a similar experience when my dad died. He passed away in 2002. We were on lockdown on level 4. And as a result of that, like, my unwillingness to deal with that in a constructive way, I kind of made myself really unavailable emotionally and became a really, like, shallow, superficial person who wasn't caring about anything but myself. For you, though, you shared that you regressed a little bit into the old criminal way of living. Share with us a little bit about how you transformed from that into the man we see today.
So I think it was there's a couple of things that contributed to that change. For me, transformation didn't come overnight. It was a process, and you know, one person that really came into my life, you know, you guys know her, Coach Taylor from Go.
Yep.
And she walks into a gym, you know, when self-help first began, and she's like, if you want to be free, be of service to your community. And I didn't know what that meant, but I wrote it down.
Right.
And as I continued to get involved in groups and I continued to facilitate, I would go to visit and people would be like, "Hey, Mom, that's the guy that helped me get found suitable." And I was like, "Damn, this is the feeling that I was searching for my whole life."
Mm-hmm.
There was people like Dan Tacchini and Jesse and the whole Ready for Life crew who invited me into a conversation about living a life worth having. In 2010, I don't know if you want me to touch on this yet or not.
Yeah.
But in 2010, I went to board after 20 years of incarceration, and I was going to hopefully be found suitable. And I walked out of there with the 15-year denial. And I ended up going to this 3-day seminar, and what happened was on the first night, they invited me to do an exercise where I write out a 10-year vision. 10 years, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I just got a 15-year denial. I'm going to be in prison. They're like, forget that. Just what do you want in 10 years? What would you like? So I said, look, I want to be an alcohol and drug counselor. I want to be married, and I want to be out of prison. Come back the next day, told them I did the assignment, but, my thinking was like I just got denied 15 years. And that was in 2010. So what happened was what they invited me to do was to start living for my future. And I didn't know what it meant. And when they explained it to me, they told me, look, when you make a decision, make it from your future self. Make it from a person who's an alcohol and drug counselor. Make it from somebody who is committed to getting out of prison.
Right.
And when I started doing that, the world started opening up for me. Ted and Jay and Rich and, a few people started coming into my life, Eugene. And he brought the AOD program in. And I was asked to, participate and take up a spot on this island of sobriety. And what happened
Johnny,
was
I just want to ask another question as you're telling the story. Did you ever have any temptations from like the fellows on the yard, or did you just know that after you came off that 15-year denial and you had that exercise with Dan and Jesse and the Ready for Life crew, that you were going to start making new decisions? Or were there any temptations for you? And if you did have temptations, how did you overcome them?
So there's still temptations today. However, the difference today is like I use something called consequential thinking. I still make decisions for my future. One thing me and my wife plan on doing is hopefully buying a house. And I can't own a house from prison. It just, the 20 cents an hour does not work out well.
No.
For mortgage payments.
You were making 20 cents an hour. You were balling at 20 cents an hour. I was getting 11.
Yeah. So understanding like what is it that I want, and am I going to give this person? And two, like I would think one thing that we've learned is like giving other people our power. Like I'm unwilling to give the person, give somebody the power for me to make a choice to go back to prison. Like I'm not willing to do that today, even though I'm tempted. Believe me, Costco parking lot is no joke. But
Johnny, let me. We have a lot of moms of the incarcerated to watch the show, and sometimes what you're sharing right now comes across so with ease and laissez-faire. So I had already been in 20 years, and I went to the board and got a 15-year denial. It's like, what? So you were in for 20 years. And we know that the board gives out different denials these days. Back then, in the days, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now it's 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, or the Grand Master 15-year denial, which almost nobody gets. And you had already been in 20, so now you're looking at doing 35 years, being in from 2010 to 2025, and you get the 15-year denial. What are you experiencing right then? And then just what you said, you go to a group with Dan Tacchini, Eileen Tacchini, Jesse Bonderman, the Cornerstone crew, and they invite you to cast a vision for a future. And you say, the future is what future? I'm going to be here till 2025. It's 2010. Are you nuts? And they say, do it anyways. And they invite you to live from that future. So, one, what was that like walking away from that 15-year denial? 2, doing the exercise. And then tell us about how you ended up fulfilling those things. I mean, it's what, 2021?
Yeah, it's 2021.
It's not 2025. So, and you're sitting on the couch off parole.
Off parole.
You've been, we're still on parole. So, how'd you do it?
So one, the grace of God, most definitely. He put people like you guys in my life. He encouraged me. He supported me. And then he put other people in my life. There's a buddy of mine. You guys know him, Steve Lomas, and he went to board after I did. And he gets found suitable, and he's going home. And he calls me over, and he's like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, if there was somebody who was getting you in trouble, preventing you from going home, and preventing you from being with your family, would you consider that person a friend or an enemy? Like that guy would be my worst enemy." And he tells me, "What are you doing to yourself?" And I started looking at that, like, man, like I made choices, and all the trouble that I was getting into, bringing in a quarter pound of weed was a choice. Getting caught with cell phones was a choice. Testing dirty was a choice. And I started realizing, like, man, I could make better choices. And when I started making them from the future, my future changes. So God, brought people into my life, and He opened my eyes, and you
What,
know,
what was the experience though, Johnny? Like, I think
a
Rich
50
is going.
now, I
Yeah, the denial of like sitting. I mean, by the grace of God, I never sat in front of the board. Both you and Richard have. I've heard stories about it, and I spent years preparing for it. But I can only imagine what the experience was like sitting across a table and someone telling you we're going to give you a 15-year denial. What was that like for you?
But first of all, I'd worked hard for that 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So after I went back to the cell, smoked some weed and drank some alcohol, um, it was like I had already decided, like, I'm okay spending the rest of my life in prison. So
Mm.
now I just don't have to go back to board as often. I honestly didn't even consider going home at that time. And something I use as a victim story and as a crutch is, the governor at that time was like, look, the only way a lifer is going to pro is in a pine box.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm cool hanging out and drinking and smoking and using cell phones. And I was okay with that. Like I was comfortable living that life.
Right.
And it's sad to say, but I didn't even want, not only did I didn't want, but I don't think I deserved something better.
Mm.
And that had to change first. Like I had to come to a realization, like, man, you're worth more than spending the rest of your life in prison.
That's deep. That's so deep.
And was it Steve's words? I mean,
that
Steve's
was part
words.
of it for sure.
So when is that moment? Is it a gradual moment, or I know that you always say that. What do they call you, Johnny? Something about an eraser or a pencil or a butter knife, Johnny Butter Knife.
Oh, butter knife because I'm not that sharp. Yeah.
yeah.
You're pretty
I think
sharp, bro.
Johnny Butter Knife because you're not that sharp. But
Yeah.
do you wake up one morning and go, "That's it. I'm gonna start going to groups. I'm gonna start working on myself." I mean, I know about Steve Loma's story. The man is you. It
Yeah.
reminds me of King David in the Bible. And and when Nathan the prophet came to him and said, "Suppose a man have 100 sheep and another man only have one, and that man with 100 go and steal the one," which is what David did with Bathsheba, and then sent her husband into the war, and he got killed in the war, so he could be with her. And David says, "Tell me who he is, and I'll go kill him." And Nathan the prophet tells him, "You're the man." That's literally what it says. You're the man. So Steve Lomas kind of gives you that. If there was somebody trying to hold you back, and you get bowed up and like, who is he? He would be my enemy, my worst enemy. And Steve says, "You're the man. You're your worst enemy." Is it that the next day, or because eventually you got the name Johnny Ducats? A lot of people don't know what ducats are out here when we share that, but it's a little pass that you have to have in prison to go to any type of self-help program, to go to medical, to get into any of the buildings, to have authorization to get in any of the buildings that you're not supposed to be in regularly. You got to have one of those. And some people might have one a week, two a week to certain groups. But you're walking around with 6 or 7 in your pocket every day for 3 or 4 years. So,
Yeah.
so what happens there?
So, it didn't happen like in the moment, but I started thinking about it. I started considering it. And, there were situations that happened that God allowed me to experience. In life, sometimes we come upon a fork in the road, and we're challenged, or we're given an opportunity to make a choice. And one thing even today, and it's been a starting point for me, is like I begin the day with God, take my will in my life, be with me to my recovery, and show me how to live. And I start my day with that, and that's one of the prayers that I used in there. So another opportunity was like I said, God grants us opportunities to grow or to regress. And so another opportunity was we had took the test to become certified alcohol and drug counselors. And 10 of us took the test, and we were told that one of the guys didn't fail. One of the guys had failed. And I was like, man, I felt bad for him. And, I was like, hey, let me know how we could support you. And I was thinking like, man, he must be going through it. Like the only guy out of 10 people not to pass the test, and such an important test, the certification, state certification to be an alcohol and drug counselor. And I was really feeling bad for this guy, and I'd walk laps with him and try to support him. And one day I'm sitting on the yard, and
Can you share who he is? We're trying to get him on the show too.
No, you know.
Wade Taylor? Yeah.
It was Wade.
Yeah.
So it was
Big Wade, where you at, Big Wade?
Yeah.
We need you on the show to hear the other side of the story. Go ahead.
There were 10 of us, though.
Yeah, so I was like, man, poor Wade. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say, I remember there were 10 of us, and we were chosen to be the first group to get certified, largely because of our level of commitment to the program and to each other and to success. And we were going to pave the road for everyone else. And then, but because of the nature, like it was a bunch of incarcerated guys who built the program.
Yeah.
We had some support from a formerly incarcerated friend of ours, Eugene Day, and
Mitch, of course.
Of course, Mitch and Ted. They founded the Crop organization. And that was our primary source of real support. But the communication was really hard, like with what was going on out in the world with the certification organization and us inside with what we thought we knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had gotten that news that it was like a Wade Taylor didn't pass. So sorry, I just want to add that detail.
And you were walking laps consoling him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to console him and encourage him and taking notes for him. Like, I remember this, being on the test, and you're going to, what can we go over? And so I'm sitting on the bench, the yard's going in, and Ted comes up to me. He's like, hey, you know how we said that Wade was the one that didn't pass? He's like, it was actually you.
Did he say it just like that, though?
Yeah.
At least that's how it felt.
I remember we were walking laps that day, and he told me what he found out. And he said, I got to go tell Johnny the bad news. And I said, you want me to go with you? He said, no, I'll go.
Yeah.
Tough.
So he
heard
tells
that,
you
I
it
was
wasn't Wade, it was you.
So how was that? How was that? Like,
That
what was
was
that
like
experience like?
well, that was one of the first things that I began doing to transform my life, to make myself more than a gang member and a criminal. Like now I'm an alcohol and drug counselor. And that was taken from me. And there was thoughts of like, maybe all you are is just an alcoholic and a gang member and a criminal. Like stay in your lane. Like you're trying to do too much. And
man, that's crazy.
like part of me was like, man, if this is what it feels like, because Ted told me too, he's like, hey, don't worry, you're gonna retake the test. And part of me was like, hell no, if that's what it feels like to fail, like I don't want to do it twice. Like I'm just cool once. And I go back to my cell, and I wear my feelings on my sleeve. And there's an older gentleman with a white beard that used to always go to church. I forgot his name, but he was an angel. And when I'm standing by my door and obviously frustrated and upset, he's like, when you go in your cell, get on your knees and thank God for what you have. And I was like, man. And part of me didn't want to do that, but I went in there and I got on my knees and I thank God, thank God for my good looks and charm, first of all. And then, I thank him for like an opportunity to breathe and to see and to walk. And the little things that I took for granted for so long. And so they set up for me to take the test again. And I take the second test, and I'm like, damn, this test is harder than the first test.
Well, I want to go in between that, though. Hold on. Before you go with the story, I want to go in between because I was there with you, Johnny. And I just want to say, like a testament to your character, like and your commitment. Like you were walking up and down that corridor for weeks.
With a stack of index cards like this.
Stack of index cards. And every time I saw you, I almost got to the point where I was like, Johnny, give me a break. You'd be like, here, give me some questions. Give me some questions.
Yeah.
Like you wanted it.
You memorized that.
Yeah.
Everything.
You wanted it. You wanted this transformation in your life. You wanted this new opportunity. And I just wanted to add that. I didn't want you to blow past the fact that you put in the work.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely.
So it's a powerful story of resilience.
So I took the test again, and I was like, man, it's more difficult than the first one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was sitting in church one day, and the pastor shared that in order to be happy, you have to have something happening in your life, but you can experience joy from the Lord. And I was like, you know what? I don't need a piece of paper to help somebody. Like if I want to help somebody, help somebody. Right. You don't have to tell everybody and their mom that you're certified alcohol and drug counselor. But I found out later on that day that I had passed. And I told everybody and their mom. And it was
That's
just
right.
like probably one of the first things that I was really proud of. Um, and it came to pass. Like if you put in the work, like the law of attraction, that's something that I live by today. Like if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to do good things will happen.
Right.
And it's part of the story I share today with the clients that I work with.
Right.
So
That's pretty good.
something that's really like I just love it about you is
This guy's like Rocky, man. He's got comeback story after
he
comeback
does,
story.
he does. He's like Rocky for sure. But one of the things I love about you, Johnny, is like your commitment to other people. Because I think there's a temptation for a lot of people inside, like, I need to do this group or I need to get this certification because someday I'm going to sit in front of the board and I want to be found suitable and I want to go home, right? But not you. Like you were one of those individuals who did it for others. Like you were serious when you said to Dan Tacchini and Jesse Bonderman that I want to be a counselor someday and I want to help people. Like that was in your heart. And I can say that with confidence because I was there with you. And I know that once you were certified, you began giving back to the community who's incarcerated in a whole nother way. Would you be willing to share a little bit about how you were contributing to the community at Soledad after you got certified?
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but I have a couple ideas.
I was thinking about the Phoenix House. I was thinking about your facilitation roles.
So one thing that I've come to learn is like, in order for me to be free and stay sober and have a clear mind, like I have to serve other people. Like I can't make it about me. I'm not gonna lie, it started about me. I was on C status and I wanted to get out of the cell, so I would go to group and I'd be in the back of the group with Chris Wapniak and telling him, hey, I'll go get us some weed and we can get high in the back of the group. And then he looked at me like I lost my mind. And I was like, maybe that wasn't the right thing to say. But then I started, like I said, realizing like the freedom and the joy. And like one thing that we are taught in our training is like, it's better to have a good question than a good answer. And to be able to ask people questions and encourage them to, find the answers themselves and do the work. And one time in one of the groups, we were working with a psychiatrist. And he's like, you guys have the shovel. I just show you where to dig. Right. And understanding, like, just encouraging people like, hey, dig a little bit more over here, a little bit deeper. Instead of so wide, try a little deeper. And having that conversation and kind of goes back to the Johnny Duckett thing. Like I would have 5 or 6 ducats a day. And I was in the SAP program and we would go there at 8 in the morning, get out at 11, go back at 12:30, go there till like 3:30. Do another group at 4 from 4 to 5:30, and then do another group from like 6 to 8. And part of that was like just wanting to encourage other people to want a better life. Like I was given an amazing gift. Like there was people who stood by me, who encouraged me, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And part of those people are the people from Palma, like Jim and Mia, all the students and teachers that would come in. I have family that never came to visit me while I was in prison. And you have these people coming every week, religiously, no pun intended, but, coming every day to actually support us and encourage us. And, they thought that we were doing such an amazing deed for them students, but they're doing an amazing deed for us. Absolutely. We knew that, like, if you made a choice that was not your best, then you wouldn't be allowed to come to these programs anymore. And just, just a blessing that we got for being in that crowd and being in the presence of all those people were amazing.
Jim and Mia were actually guests on the Prison Post. I think they were the guests on the day that my son was born.
Yep,
which was amazing.
Oh, awesome.
Would you be willing to? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think that you were the catalyst that kind of created the relationship between Palma School and Soledad. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I wouldn't say the catalyst, but I was there when the conversation happened. Okay. And, Jim comes in and he's like, hey, we'd like to come in. And at that time, that was almost unheard of. Like having people just want to come into prison. Everybody in prison wanted to get out. You don't have too many people wanting to come in willingly. So
much less once a week.
Yeah, exactly. So we started a writing project where it was, roses and thorns of, relationships with our fathers. and he put together a book. And Jim is part genius, part man, and Mia is that's his Robin to Batman. And without Mia, there wouldn't be Jim. Without Jim, there wouldn't be Mia. And so we just progressed from there. And they're like, "Hey, what do you think about doing a reading?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." And even when it came to the conversation of the scholarship, it was an uncomfortable conversation because there was belief that no, Jim and Mia belong to us, like Life Cycle. I'm like, no, they're not something you own. Like if somebody else want to do good with them and bless other people, then we're going to support it. Right. And but yeah, I was there, and it was a blessing. And honestly, to see what it's grown into today, not to take responsibility, but to be a part of that, and still continue to be a part of it. Like meet with them every 2 weeks, and I was thinking about it last night when I was thinking about this meeting with us. Is like, I remember, I'm sure you guys remember, you were there when Art came back into the facility. Yes. And there was 5 guys that we were incarcerated with wearing suits. Yep. And I was like, man, that could be me. Mm-hmm. And it gave so much fuel and energy and positivity. And like, I remember leaving there that day like, man, that's amazing. And, adding to our vision and adding to, casting that belief that, man, if they can do it, we can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so it was just a blessing.
Johnny, I think about the people that you're talking about right now, the people that go in, that have a heart of love. Love is a verb. Jim Micheletti, director of campus ministry at Palma School, like you said, his Robin, Mia, she works with him. They go and build houses in Peru, in Mexico. They work with the elderly in Monterey County. They go into Soledad on a weekly basis when it was, when COVID wasn't up and running. They do exercises in empathy. I think we have one coming up next Friday. Just tremendous people who give. You're one of those types of guys. You're right. When the Hope and Redemption team from the Anti-Recidivism Coalition came into the prison with all of our buddies from Soledad, there was something special about all of us at Soledad, the lifers that were there that spent decades together, and to see them come back in suits. And a lot of people out here, like, who've never been incarcerated might think like, how did that inspire you? Like what you just said right now, that sentence, like, that could be me. Wait a minute. You mean it could be you as a person that goes back into prison? Why would you want to do that after 28 years, Johnny? But there's something special about going back in and giving back and bringing hope, because it is a place where it's built to take away your hope. It's built to objectify you and make you feel like this is where you're supposed to be. And in reality, that's not where you're supposed to be.
At least up until now.
Amen.
Because we're working on changing that, right? And one of the things that you said earlier that really just jumped out to me was the initial culture of like despair, that pervasive despair from the governor on down, the whole idea that if you had life in prison, then you were going to die there. Like, that's not the way it should be.
No, absolutely not.
It should be more like what Jim and Mia and the exercise of with empathy. That's what it should be. It should be a space of learning and rehabilitation and reintegration where the incarcerated population and the community are working together to get them back home, right?
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
And even a couple of things that stood out was like, so one of the guys from from Art, Jacob Brevard, that you guys know, he was somebody, and I'm going to put him on blast. We worked in the kitchen together at 3:30 in the morning, and we would intentionally burn toast so that you can smell marijuana smoke at 3:30 in the morning. And I went after the 15-year denial. I went back to the hole, and I got out. And one of the things that came up for me was like, look, you can't get high, because after I got the 15 years denial, like I said, I was like, okay, I got to make some changes. So I'll just get high on the weekends, and I'll use an illegal cell phone like every other day instead of every day, because that's changed. And I ended up in the hole 6 months later. And when I got out, I met Jacob, of all places, in the chapel, and he's like, hey, I got some weed for you. And I was like, nah, you know what? I'm good. I'm like, I'm going to get out of prison, and I got to stop getting high. And he's like, stop playing, man. Here. I'm like, no, for real. And he said he went home that day, and he said he flushed the weed that he had. And he's like, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it. That's and right. I think that's true for everybody, is, forever, for the people who are still incarcerated, like, everybody's watching. And if you could be an example to somebody, like, that's an amazing experience. And to see him come back in and the hope on his face and the happiness and the joy. I think about that when we have the meetings with, exercises and empathy of the guys that get to see us and doing well out here and give them hope and inspiration and be like, man, I want that for me. And, we're kind of paving the path, so it's a blessing to be a part of that.
So you get set free, Johnny. You talked about working in the community as an alcohol and drug counselor. You talked about Coach Taylor having an impact on your life from Gogi, getting out by going in. And so pick up with where you started volunteering with Gogi. And then we want to tee up the video that you recently created. You just released it with Gogi. Is it called Humans of Gogi?
Yes.
Humans of Gogi. And it's on YouTube today, and we'll share it today on the podcast live and talk about it with you in a minute. But just talk about why was it important for you to go to Gogi after getting out, on top of, Jason and I know how busy things are, and you're going over there to Gogi to write letters to people that are still incarcerated. I mean, it's time consuming. I've only written 4 or 5 letters in 2 years to people back in prison. I feel bad about that, but you made it a commitment to do. Talk about it.
Yeah. So, like I said, it started with her coming in a group of about 100 men saying, if you want to be free, be of service to your community. And that became true for me. Like I experienced freedom in prison. And in the beginning, we had this long pamphlet of paper that we were facilitating. And they said, you could be free no matter where you lay your head. And I was like, man, I'm going to take her up on that offer. So I got more involved in Gogi and became part of the executive body and began facilitating and offered things that were published in her books. And when I got found suitable, I wrote her and let her know. And she's like, hey, what do you think about coming and working in the mailroom? So as soon as I got out, she's like, hey, you want to come? I have somebody come pick you up. So that's what happened. I started volunteering here. And she gave me the opportunity to go back into prison. I've been in Pelican Bay and Ironwood and Chuckawalla, and I was actually getting ready to go back into Soledad to do a victim impact workshop, and COVID hit. But one discovery that really came up for me was, while I was at Pelican Bay, it was count time 4:30, and we're walking around the building dropping off books, and I was like, man, like I never thought, and I'd been out of prison for a year already, and there was something that dawned on me that I didn't realize until I was walking on the yard, and actually 2 things. One was like, I never thought I'd say this, but I actually missed something from prison. And besides the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it was the relationships that I had with the men in prison. Like in there, we're walking laps for like 3, 4, 5 hours. Out here, you don't walk many laps. You don't build those relationships. One of my biggest struggles that I was telling Jay earlier was time management. There doesn't seem to be enough hours in a day. And being able to establish those relationships out here has also been a little difficult because of work. I work 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, and I'm married and I have to make time for my wife and my dog and 3 cats and 2 birds and a hamster. So all that.
You got a whole zoo there.
You're not making it easy on yourself, brother.
Yeah, but so those are choices that I made, and I have to keep those commitments.
I get it.
And, exercising and meditating and praying and, making sure I go to church and doing the things that got me to where I am today. And sometimes, you get so busy, like, I may not need to go to church today, but you can't lose that foundation because that's what got me out here and that's what's going to keep me out here.
So what's next for you, Johnny? What's next?
Well, let's tee up the video.
Oh, you want to do the video first? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you work at Gogi on the weekends now?
No, I work here Friday, and then after that, I take work home. I answer letters from people in prison. I send them. So Gogi offers 2 free courses. My life story, where they have to write a 15-page paper on their life with a handout that kind of leads you through it. They get a certificate for that. And then they do a power-up book. They do a book report on that. And then they offer other courses for anger management, insight development. Yeah. So many different courses. And, to go to board right now, you have to have documentation saying that you're working on yourself.
Yeah, the board recognizes.
One of the only program that's been doing that through COVID.
And the board recognizes the work that Gogi has done. And for family members out there who have a loved one during COVID, there's no programming going on right now, very limited programming on the institutional channels. They can reach out to Coach Taylor at Gogi. Is there a website there they can reach out to and order some of those books so they can begin to do the work? But Johnny, tell us a little bit about Humans of Gogi, just maybe a minute or so, and then we'll play the video.
Okay, so Coach, what they've been doing is they want to share people's stories of formerly incarcerated people who have got out, and some people that they interviewed have only been out a few months. You guys know Ernesto Rojas. He shared his story of coming out. He was supposed to get deported, and then he comes out and they tell him, we're not going to deport you. You can go to LA, but you're going to have to go to San Diego, where he has nobody. So he shares that story, and they asked me about my story, so I was more than willing to share. And they're just sharing how Gogi's contributed to our life and the positive decisions we've made.
All right. Can we show that, Nate?
Freedom is being able to live a life of service, to experience a peace and a joy. Like everything outside of me doesn't create peace and joy and happiness. It's the opportunity to be of service and help others, share with them what I've learned, share with them what I have, and encourage them to want to live a better life. My name is Johnny Howe, also known as Coach Johnny, one of the coaches for Getting Out by Going In. So one thing that I do for Gogi is I'm the mailroom manager. A week out of getting out of prison, I was offered the opportunity to start answering the mail for the mailroom, and I've been doing that for 3 years. The Gogi mailroom is a sanctuary. Not everybody is allowed just to come work in the Gogi mailroom. It's a place where I'm doing service. It's a place where I experience freedom, where I experience peace, where I know I'm doing God's work. So it's a place that I look forward to coming every week, and it's an opportunity to give back. I know that a lot of the students send in mail, and sometimes they may not get responses. Like I said, I was in prison, and there was months that would go by and I wouldn't get a response. I don't want anybody to experience that. I want someone to know that someone cares. And there's a saying that says, nobody cares how much you know unless they know how much you care. And I want them to know that Gogi cares.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Bracamonte, and I'm married to Johnny Howe. We've known each other since high school. Johnny was always up to no good. He was riding around on a bicycle, never in class. From the beginning, when I met Johnny, I really liked him, but we didn't date or anything like that. And then he went to prison, and I just kind of moved on with my life.
I was in prison for 20 years, and I ended up going to the Board of Prison Hearings to possibly be found suitable. And when I walked out of that room, I walked out with a 15-year denial.
For 3 years, I visited Johnny while he was in prison. I was so in love with Johnny. I knew I wanted to marry Johnny, and I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Johnny. But Johnny was behind a wall that I could only go visit every so often. And once I left there, I left Johnny there.
I was committing crimes in prison. I was using drugs and alcohol.
He was always drunk. He was not ready to come out.
It wasn't until I seen somebody else make a change in their life, somebody get involved with Gogi, and somebody being of service to other people. Gogi stands for Getting Out by Going In, and it's a culture, it's a lifestyle. So the Gogi Life Tools are 12 opportunities to make better decisions. Consist of things like bossing my brain, which is a reminder that I'm in charge of my thinking. Something like belly breathing, which is a basic tool you have wherever you go. Other tools like Ultimate Freedom. We talk about being able to be free wherever you're at. I was telling people I wasn't getting high or drinking anymore, and I was going to start getting more committed to the groups that I was a part of, and that's what I did.
It was so funny, when I went to go see Johnny, the guard told me, "Oh, you're here to see Howe?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you got the good Howe now.
During that time, I did a lot of work, and Gogi was a big part of it.
While he was in prison, he would tell me that he wanted to do the Gogi books. Once he was out, he told me, Cynthia, I still want to work for Gogi, and I want to work for Gogi on my days off. He would tell me, do you want to help out a little bit? You know? I said, yeah, sure. So I would help out and print out the postcards and let them know that we were getting their mail. I think for me, it's about seeing the happy faces on the guys when we go visit them in prison. Seeing how grateful they are that they're learning something new. They're getting certificates. They're getting report cards. Somebody cares.
Our purpose now as a married couple is to help other people, other couples, other people, guys, girls, whoever. Just an opportunity to grow together and give back together. We got married in prison without any of our family knowing, and ended up getting out a couple years after that, and then we built a life.
I don't think a lot of people thought Johnny would ever get out. And, you know, he's like, Johnny is what a lot of people want to be. They want to get out. They want to be free. They want to have, you know, their little place to live and be happy, and they see that in him.
I was given this gift, and I want to give it back to other people. I want to encourage people and lift people up and build them so that they can be the best person they want to be.
If there's one lesson you can learn from Johnny, is never judge a book by its cover. My parents thought, you married an inmate, Cynthia. They were so angry at me. And then they got to meet him, and my dad tells me, any chance he gets, God, Cynthia, you're so lucky. Johnny's such a great man, and I feel so ashamed that I misjudged him. My dad tells me that all the time. People, you know, believe just because someone's an inmate, they can't come out and better themselves. And I have proof. I live with proof that you can be a way better person, you know, even in jail. You could be a way better person than a lot of people out here. That's what people should learn from Johnny.
My name is Coach Johnny, and my promise to you is that if you cast a vision and use the Gogi Life tools to bring the net to shore, you'll be happy with what you end up with. My name is Coach Johnny, and I'm a face of Gogi.
Powerful. I got emotional watching it.
Yeah. While I wipe my tears away, Jay, I'll let you start off.
Well, I'll tell you what, Johnny. There's a word you use, and you use it frequently, and I appreciate it. And that word is opportunity. And you know, I was shown the value of looking at life as a series of opportunities instead of obstacles. And I tip my hat to you, sir, for seizing the opportunities in your life and not giving yourself over to obstacles. Tremendous testimony, and I'm just glad to know you.
Thank you.
Johnny, I'm proud of you, bro. I mean, I'm proud of you. It's amazing, moving piece right there. And you're right. The only way to true freedom is to service. And thank you for the relationship that we have as your friend, as your brother, going through CROP's AOD program, utilizing your certification out here today, supporting us in the reentry work that we're doing the work that you're doing in your community as an alcohol and drug counselor, doing the work that you're doing to support other efforts like people like Coach Taylor and Gogi who are doing their own part. And we're just grateful for everybody in the reentry space who is doing their part to give back, to transform the narrative about the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated, and to doing what is the solution 10 times out of 10, love people. Punishment doesn't transform. You know, Jason said it 50 times on this show. It does not transform. And it may beat you into fear for a little while, but it ain't going to change you. And love does. Love wins the day. And you are tremendously blessed to be the loving man that you are. And I'm certain that it helps to have Cynthia by your side.
Definitely.
Just a beautiful relationship. Had the privilege of having you guys in our home, and to see you happy with a partner that supports you, and how blessed it is to work side by side at Gogi with her. So we've got about 5 minutes left, Johnny. If you have some things that you want to say in closing, whether it's about Cynthia, your work, your freedom, and encouragement to those on the inside listening, and to family members who are out here, feel free to do so. We lost your audio.
Your audio.
Can you hear? Can you hear us?
I can now. Sorry
Okay,
about
there you
that.
go. It's okay.
They don't teach you this in prison. So,
No, they don't.
first and foremost, God has blessed me with an amazing woman, and I prayed for her. Like I share with her. Sometimes in life you can always find someone who may be funnier, who may have a nicer smile, or who may have a bigger butt. Not that I'm into that, but so you can know if you look outside, you keep looking, you'll never find what you really want. So for me, like I know I prayed for Cynthia, and I prayed for an intelligent, smart, beautiful, caring, loving woman, mother, and friend, and God has blessed me with all of that. And I know, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without her. And I'm super, super grateful, and I can't thank her enough. But I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the friends that I have. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I have. One thing that you guys are talking about, opportunity, also kind of correlates with perspective. And there's a story that I always hold true. I'll share it really quick. And there's about a lady who gets into a car accident, and she talks about how her life is over and no one's gonna want her, and so she goes to the doctor, and a little boy walks in and he's missing an eye, and she asks the little boy, "What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "Nothing, I'm a pirate." And she's thinking, like, this little boy's missing an eye and thinks he's a pirate. So the doctor calls her in, and the little boy sees her missing a leg and says, "What's wrong with your leg?" And she says, "Nothing, I'm a pirate too." So when I am introduced to situations where I have to make a choice, like I realize that there's always two sides. Like there's two perspectives that I can take, and which one's not only the most powerful and productive and positive for myself, but for those around me and those that I say that I love. So perspective is definitely something that I hold on to.
Yeah, Viktor Frankl once said, "The last of human freedoms is the power to choose." And no matter what, no one can take that from you. You will always have the power to choose your attitude, and no matter what the situation is. Most people couldn't experience what it was like to spend 28 years incarcerated, and to get some of the news that you receive. Your mom passing, and not passing the test, and the 15-year denial. But Johnny, you're the Rocky Balboa of the day, man, the comeback kid. You keep coming back, and now it sounds like you hit your flow. You're adding value to the community. We love you, man. We love you here.
Love you too.
I'll leave the last words with Jay, and we'll close out.
Oh, there's no last words. You said it all. He said it all, Rich. You're an amazing man, Johnny. And
Thank you.
we are honored to call you our friend. And we love you, and we encourage you to continue down the road of greatness that you're on.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity.
Prison Post. Thank you for being on the Prison Post. You can find us on Facebook at the Prison Post, on YouTube at the Prison Post, just all the way across social media, on Twitter and Instagram at the Prison Post. And also, the Prison Post is a podcast that is owned by the Crop Organization. Reach out to us at croporganization.org on our website. There's a tremendous amount of things that we're doing. The Prison Post is just a small part of it to transform the narrative of to show America that there are people that are coming out like Johnny, who are making a difference in the world, and you cannot pigeonhole them into saying that once a criminal, always a criminal. This man is a world changer, a life changer. And so visit us at croporganization.org at Creating Restorative Opportunities and Programs on Facebook and all across social media on Crop Organization. We look forward to speaking with you, talking with you, and thank you for being a part of this show today, Johnny.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good seeing you guys again.
All right.
You too.
Likewise.
Thank you for listening to The Prison Post, a production of the Crop Organization. We'll be sharing more stories from the world of prison reform and restorative justice, so please join us. You can listen to The Prison Post on all major podcasting platforms. Subscribe to our video cast on YouTube and like us on Facebook at The Prison Post and at Creating Restorative Opportunities and Programs.